Hi, everybody watching. This is Randi Janelle, and I am here with the amazing Stacey. Do you go by your surname as well, or how would you like to be called?
Just Stacey is fine.
Just Stacey. Just Stacey. Or as we know her in our EarthHeart Healing Community, she is known as Mermaid. She is, to me, very wise creature, whether it's of the sea or of the land, or just as she is in this human body. So thank you so much, Stacey, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So what I'm hoping to convey, let's say this, is this pace of rapid evolution that many of us have been experiencing. And I know it's a topic that we circle back to often. In fact, we kind of do this hashtag rapid evolution a lot in our posts in the community. So Stacey has agreed to participate in a little exercise that we're going to be doing today. But first, I wanted to just check in with you about the work that you do in the Akashic Records. And so you do a lot of readings through Akashic Records, correct? And so
Yeah.
tell me, what's a more recent example or something that stuck with you in a reading in which you really, let's say, thrive, maybe? What's the point of thriving that you get out of being able to do the readings?
I guess the biggest thing is just to give people that validation and clarity. And when they feel good after reading, I feel like, oh, mission accomplished. It's like I really, and then just being in the records, it's so high vibrational. It's like when I get out of there, I'm just like up here on cloud nine and just like, oh, life is amazing. And so I just love to be able to just go in the records and really help people find that clarity or that guidance that they're looking for. And to have those ahas, it's like, it's so cool just to get people's feedback. And that's the biggest thing for me. It's like it, um, how it affects people's lives and how they can grow, how they can get like just validation, because I've had a couple of readings where it's just like, okay, I just needed somebody else to tell me that. And like an unbiased confirmation where I don't know anything about the subject. I don't know anything about what's going on. So it really just helps give that validation to the person and then gives them the clarity to move forward.
Beautiful. So for anybody who's not aware, how would you describe the records? What are the Akashic Records?
Yeah, so the basic way that people describe the Akashic Records, it's that library somewhere out there that holds the records of all things past, present, future. But really, how I see the records is kind of just like a database of light or information that just holds all of the knowledge of all things at once. Because I know our linear brains are just like, well, that was my past life, that was my future life, but really they're all happening right now. And what I love so much about that perspective in the records is like if we're affected by a past life and we're holding some trauma or some pattern and we've brought it over, we don't have to go into the past lives. It's like we can see that pattern showing up in our current life and we can shift it here and now. And so it really gives people that power and that awareness to make changes, and they don't feel like a victim anymore. It's like even in our past, we're like, well, that happened and this is why. But even in that regard, we can change that. Okay, well, I know that this is my current pattern because that happened, but how can I begin to make those shifts and that changes? And that's where the Akashic Records can really bring in some clarity on how to move forward with those things.
Beautiful. Anybody else feeling that in their body? Like repeated patterns happen for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
And
I just invite you guys, and Stacey, if you want to join me, let's just take a breath and just like let that land in the body. Oh, happening for me, happening with me rather than to me. Such a good point. Thank you. Did you have another point on that?
yeah, just one important point is that even as we're changing, we may still have the same experience of the pattern, but it's almost like to see, have we actually grown past it? Or are we going to keep repeating the same thing? Because it isn't until we actually change the action that the circumstance change. And we can't just say like, think it through. It's like, yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to do it. I feel like I'm going to do it. It's the actual action, because that action shows the intention.
Yeah, beautiful. And in my experience too, with breaking these cycles and breaking these patterns, is that it has to come with some big emotional, almost confrontation is what I've experienced. So when you're sort of meeting a wound, or maybe a wound created a pattern, something like that, that it whether it's your own breakthrough with the tears, the journaling, the working it through, then taking the action. I have to set this boundary, or I have to have this conversation, or I have to quit the job, or I have to quit the relationship, or whatever, which I feel like is what you're pointing to. Then there's this kind of like, oh, life is better, life is easier, but what I've found with the action too, that there's some big emotional confrontation, whether it's facing the fears, mostly, right? It's facing fears. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do agree, because otherwise we would just do the action. There's something that is causing resistance, to where we want to make the action, but like at the last minute we change our intention. We're like, actually, I'm going to go back. It's like, I'm going to do what's comfortable. I'm going to do what's easy. So whatever it does take to kind of move through that barrier is kind of what we really need to do. And sometimes that's where the records can be helpful, because people are like, I tried, and
Yeah.
then I get right there and then I just fall backwards, or I just run the other direction. And so when you can really begin to break that down and simplify it for yourself, it really helps you move forward.
Yeah. I like that reminder too, that it's like whatever. Just Stacey also has channeled for us in the community these beautiful, and she's got some on our YouTube channel too, so I highly recommend you check it out. But she's got these beautiful, we call them channeled messages, right? Downloads, transmissions. And there was one you did for us, I think it was early in the year this year. What is just the very next step? I really appreciate that about you too, and your guidance, that often when we see these big patterns, or we're working through them, or we know that there's so much in our lives that we have to change, or that has to fall away, sometimes it feels super overwhelming. But I appreciate that so often your guidance is just going, what is just the very next step? And like you're saying, it could just be that action, could be the clarity that you get from the readings, or the records, or whatever you're getting as far as your source of guidance, and then follow the emotion. So it's just that distillation I appreciate in the work that you do.
Yeah. And it's really cool during readings, because like I will see the progression. It's like they'll show me, it's like all this potential, and then they'll kind of be like, but we're going to be over here. Because like just having all that potential, it's like overwhelming, but yet they put it forward because they want you to recognize, it's like, you are capable of so much more. You have so much more potential, and you have to start embodying that. So it's like, even if you're doing these small things right now, just recognize that that's actually leading to this. And so it gives people that kind of, okay, well, I'm going to enjoy this now because I know this is coming and this is coming. And then it kind of gets them excited again. And it really gives them kind of that purpose back in what they're doing. So even like being a mom, like I know that's a big one for some people, because it's like, well, I'm just supposed to be a mom. That's it. It's like I felt like there was something more here. And it kind of, you get stuck in that label. So just seeing like, oh, I can see how that timeline progresses, and that my identity is so much bigger than just what I was kind of stuck in. And so it just gives people almost like the certainty, like, this isn't all that there is. There's so much more, and life gets better from here, and it just keeps growing.
Thank you. I'd like to take another little pause here, because I feel like there's some powerful energetic moments here. So if you want to join us as you're watching, just to take a big deep breath and just feel the enormity of wherever you're at, and taking care of things, taking care of people, and just maybe feeling that, just how much you are doing in and of yourself. And then the distillation of whatever just might be the next thing, even if you don't know what it is. just knowing that there's something simple, like Stacey said, that maybe being a mom is enough. Being who you are is enough. Doing that next little thing is exactly the divinely led thing for you to do. So let's just take a breath in that distillation of just the crystal clarity of the next thing is rapid evolution. And then just opening your awareness to what Stacey is calling the records, the Akashic Records. We could call it the field, whatever that word is, just all that you are has such potential. Thank you for pointing that out. And just take a moment and just feel that that's how we get to our full potential through rapid evolution. And so just take a moment and feel almost like this little next thing is the doorway to what expands us. And just take one more breath. Woo! Thank you. Did you feel that?
Yeah.
So, let's see. I'd like us to go into our kind of connecting because Stacey had a great point, which all of this is based on, is that everything we're living and doing, past who we were in the past, who we are in the future, is happening simultaneously. So if you resonate with past lives, we could say it's all in the records. We could say it's all in the field. And so I'd like to play this little game with Stacey where you might take a pause as well if you want to play with us. And as Stacey answers, you can always pause before her answer and just reflect on, or before or after her answer and just reflect on what's happening for you as well. Because to me, this is a way to look at the scope of our lives and the scope of our energy. So you take as much time as you need, Stacey, take as much time as you need on the video. But let's connect, Stacey, to who you were a year ago. And so the first thing I'll ask you once you've connected, and I recommend that you just, first thing that pops up, what are you into about a year ago? So this is May 2024, maybe May 2024.
Yeah. About a year ago was kind of when I was fresh into the Akashic Records, and I was into getting all the knowledge about it and doing a ton of practices and really feeding my curiosity. And I think it was also the time where I actually decided that I was going to progress on something, because before it was just like, well, I'm interested in that and that and that and that. And I just never followed through with anything. It was like, yes, this. And I thought I would do that. And then it was just like, actually, this is the thing that is I'm supposed to be doing. And I never moved forward. But then I kind of just was like, I'm going to just decide. And it was just kind of one of those things where I'm just going to choose one thing. And then it just so happened to be the Akashic Records. And I was like, well, I kind of like this. It kind of encompasses everything, and everybody's different. So all the readings are never the same. No two people are alike. And I love the variety. And I also, what I like about it more than like mediumship or psychic readings is that it's coming from a much higher level. It's coming from like a broader perspective, and it's giving overarching guidance instead of kind of just telling you what to do or like reminding you of this. And I really like that, because I think so often when we go to like a psychic or a medium, it's just like, tell me what I want to hear, tell me what to do. And it's just like, I'm going to give you all my power away. But within the records, it's like you have free will. They won't overcross that. They will never tell you what you should do. They're just there to kind of guide you. And I love that, because that's what I wanted. It's like, I don't want people coming for me, just telling me how, or asking me how to live their life. It's like, you are meant to live your life. And it's also something that I struggled with too in the beginning, because I was like, no, we have a purpose. It's like there's this thing that we're supposed to do, and we're supposed to be amazing at it, or we're supposed to change the world. But then like I grew up and it's like, oh yeah, you have such a multi-dimensional purpose, and it's so fluid. And even as you change and evolve, it's like your purpose changes and evolves,
Mm.
and you can't know it all until you grow into it all.
Mm.
So it's really cool to see.
Wonderful point. Thank you. Thank you from the Stacey a year ago. What a beautiful point. So just another cute question. What is your favorite food a year ago? What was your favorite food?
A year ago.
Mm.
That's a tough one. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have too much like different things. Um, yeah, I guess we were into those watermelon cakes.
I was gonna say on the community, Stacey started posting these amazing, epic, creative watermelon cake for her. It was your daughter's birthday, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I love making,
watermelon.
yeah, I love making desserts the most because it's just like vegetables are going to taste like vegetables. It's like we'll just keep those. But
Yeah.
it's fun to kind of get creative and see like, how can I make this terrible dessert into something okay?
Yeah, super
So,
creative. Cool. So what's the gift from the version of you a year ago? Who's actually kind of happening right now? What are you
yeah.
taking in from her?
Well, I guess in that moment, it was the clarity and choice and action. It was
Mm.
just like she finally decided, okay, you can just do something and I can always change it. Because I think so often we get stuck in our head and we waste a lot of time because we're like, well, what if that thing doesn't work out? What if I waste a bunch of time? And then we waste years like I did, just
Mm.
sitting in limbo, like, what should I do? What could I do? And do nothing. So I think just taking action on something is going to give you more clarity than sitting around and wondering
Yeah.
for years.
Beautiful. Thank you to the Stacey a year ago. And thank you for finding us.
Yeah. I think I found you guys about a year ago too.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so let's let's go back even further, 5 years ago, which is what would that put us at? 2019, spring of 2019. How does she like to play? Spring of 2019. Yeah, water break, right? While she thinks.
um spring of 2019, I had my daughter, my second daughter. So she was just tired. I was
Tired.
I was very much just in mom mode and taking care of things and kind of just almost getting through the day in some regards because it is a little bit overwhelming. And I also, like later in that year, after I had my second daughter, I also started having weird experiences and things where I was like, things were waking up, but I wasn't, you know, and I was more in that fear mode because I didn't have anybody to talk to. Um, I was kind of isolated from everything. I didn't have any community. And so I kind of just ended up shutting a lot of things down when they were ready to open up, or they weren't ready because I wasn't ready. But yeah, that went on for years. And I didn't really make sense of it or know how to process most of it. So I was kind of, again, in that state of limbo. Like I was enjoying spirituality, but just more of a curiosity. I never took action on things. It's like, oh, yeah, we meditate. It's like, I'll do that tomorrow, you know, tomorrow. And I never really fell into it. But I did. That was about the time I also started reading this book called Living in the Heart. And that's kind of the first meditation that I actually followed through with. And it was just going into your heart space, that tiny sacred chamber in your heart. And that I think was the catalyst that started bringing these memories back online. And that was kind of when I started getting these memories of being a mermaid, you know, and it's just like I had no concept that was even like a life. You know, it's like people were mermaids, but I was like, this is weird. It's like, where's this coming from? I never had an affinity for mermaids. I never looked into mermaids or anything, but it was just like I would go there and I'd be transported into that like lifetime and like things that were happening and the environment. And I just kind of kept going into that space for a while. because it just felt good. It felt like home. And I felt like that really started to bring things online for me and open me up more spiritually than I was before.
Cool. And I feel like you've landed on it. Actually, I guess I want to, well, I'll say this. Sounds like you landed on it, but that gift from 5 years ago, would you say it was that kind of start the beginning of your exploration?
Yeah, I would say my gift is my daughter.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, it was just, I guess, just kind of starting back on my spiritual journey. Um, because like it was kind of like in between the 1 and the 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But like a couple years out, I finally had space and security in my life to where I was like not in survival mode. I can kind of do things again. And then I got into art actually in between that time. Um, and I think actually at the end of 2019 was when I started drawing portraits and just, I was like, I want to draw a portrait. I don't know why I've never drawn a portrait, no skill set. But then that kind of just opened that up. And then it eventually led to me like bringing art to my daughters. And because I was like, well, I want more time to play. So I was like, let's get them doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of led to intuitive art, which kind of led me to opening my psychic abilities in a way that I felt like, oh, I can do this. This is easy. This is fun. And it didn't feel scary like some of the other experiences I had. I felt like, oh, I'm in control now. And that I had that control really helped me move forward with it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. So as far as 5 years ago, what felt impossible then that perhaps became possible?
Yeah, well, so many things happened. It's like hard to pinpoint.
Mm-hmm.
One of the major things was the living situation that I was in. It's like we finally got out of it. And like it seemed like impossible at the time. It's like we were saving a lot of money, and we still needed like 20 grand, but we just didn't have it and we didn't know how we were going to have it. And we weren't ready to move because we wanted to have the money first. But then a tree fell on us while we were sleeping one night. And it we didn't get crushed, luckily, but the house was we couldn't live in where we were living. It was unlivable. And so
it totaled where you were living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that kind of shifted us to move out of the environment, which is actually what catalyzed me to actually start focusing more on what I enjoyed, because I didn't feel like I was surviving anymore. I felt like I can breathe, it's like I can breathe, I can do things. So yeah, that was one of the biggest things. And it sounds messed up, but I was like, we manifested a freaking tree landing on us, because it was we were living on an island and it was so windy every winter. And I was just like every time it would, like almost weekly, like a tree would fall. It's just like a power line would go down. We would have a power outage. I was like, we just need a tree to land on us. It's just like,
did you think that before it happened?
I literally did. I was like, because I was like, we can burn this place. It's like, I just wanted to get out of there. I was like, I just like very negative imagination, but like the universe took it in a way where we were all safe. And it kind of pushed us out of the nest. It was like, yes. But then we were like panic mode, but we're like, yay. So it was nice.
Awesome. Can we take a moment and just like for all of us, just take a deep breath and say thank you to those wild, weird, almost impossible things in our lives? Oh, might be a tree falling on you. Thank you for that, Stacey. Thank you to your 5 years prior self for joining us in this conversation. And
yeah.
Okay, so let's go into the future. I know this is sometimes a little trickier, but so into a year, and I'm going to say a probable future, because as Stacey, I think, would agree, we have choice, we have agency and free will. So let's just say the one that you are most aligned through your heart with. 1 year, so this would be May of 2025 or spring of 2025. And what would you say? So we talk a lot about this in our meditation sessions in our group, home vibrations. So the sort of frequency of where you come to consistently over and over and over again. And what would you say is your one word for your home vibration a year into the future?
I kind of feel like it's between flow and allowance. And I feel like it's allowance of the flow, because a lot of the times, like where I'm at right now, it's a bit of that kind of like, I'll resist it a little bit where it's like, yeah, I want that. But it's like, let me try to control it. It's like, I want to know how it's going to happen and what's going to happen. And I think just allowance of that flow is really what's calling me right now.
Beautiful. Okay, let's go back in. So a year into this probable future, at this point, what have you let go of that maybe is still current within you?
Yeah, I think it's just that controlling of how things look, because I feel like part of me is just like, come on, bring on the change. And it's like, oh, change is coming. It's like, never mind. It's like, you're asking a lot from me here. And I think just letting that happen and looking for the opportunities to change and not just waiting, but inviting them in and going for them. So.
Beautiful. Thank you, future Stacey, for being with us. Let's all take a deep breath and just thank our future guidance, because in my experience, often what we receive is just ourselves pulling ourselves along. So just take a deep breath with who we are, not just in the past, but the future as well. Nice. And then Stacey, what do you feel that distillation of, you said, so letting go of control, you've got this flow and allowance. Any other gifts that you are receiving from yourself in the future?
Yeah, I kind of get this vision of like, I finally feel grounded in like my work, my career, my spiritual path. Because right now it's kind of just like up in the air. It's like, where do you want to go with it? And I think, another choice point, obviously, is like we're always faced with those as we begin to rapidly evolve. I think they come in more rapidly, and it's like, choose so we can kind of push it. And yeah, I feel like I'm at that right now. So, really coming into like blossoming in a career choice and money wise, because, I feel like I've kind of teeter tottered. It's like, okay, we'll go into spirituality. Okay, we'll go into money. It's like, we got to survive. We got to expand. And it's kind of been like a flop. It's like, what am I doing? Like, okay, well, I have to work. I have to live. It's like, no, but I just want to be spiritual. I just want to do this work. I just want to help people. And it's been like a flop. And so I feel like they kind of come together finally. And I feel like almost letting go of the guilt, because it's like, I feel like we feel guilty, or it's like having to make money, just like almost like it feels needy or selfish, but it's like we can't go forward without it.
Yeah.
Like, not currently, like not until we have those communities, we have those systems down pat, we have self sustainability. But even so, it's like we need to bridge that gap. It's like, how do we get there? Because just waiting on the systems and things to do it for us, I feel, is just holding us back from our potential and like what we're waiting for. So it's just like, how can we create it? And it's like, great if we can do it together. It's like more resources, more pulling together to really create that change. But yeah, that's what I feel is like the biggest thing coming up for me right now. Yeah.
Yeah. That to me is a felt sense, and I would say I'm in a very similar situation. And I like that you brought that up, especially around this topic of rapid evolution, because with rapid evolution, it almost does feel like if we are a container, life, if we're surrendering to it, life will go shake, 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 shake. It's almost like one of those snow globes, right? It's like, okay, allowing yourself to be shaken and then noticing what is falling away and what is actually settling down. So I agree, Stacey.
Hmm.
I feel like that's a gift of my 1 year ahead future self as well. It's just that I've been shooken, you can say.
Yeah.
And so that letting go of control or that letting go aspect, is the bridge between who I am now and who I am in a year from now. But that grounding into this new system, this new reality, whatever it is, this new paradigm, this new world is happens more and more and more for me. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do one more into the future. So what about 5 years into the probable future? So again, through that home vibration. And how does she like to play? Or we could even say you. How do you like to play 5 years into the future, probable future?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's kind of like, well, what did you choose?
Mm-hmm.
But kind of like my big vision is to really have an in-person community, have a retreat center, have that self-sustainability. And I was talking to a friend of mine just the other day. I was like, it'd be cool to like have all of our retreat centers all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
but like have them network together and like just create such a foundational community to tap into all these different resources. And like that would be like a big vision going forward, because I think it would be so amazing um, to actually bring that change into the way we live, because again, most people, it's like spiritual life, society, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
where can we actually merge those? So we're actually living our spiritual life in a society that matches our values instead of living the values of the society as we're taught.
And then having a closeted or compartmentalized spiritual life. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get that from a lot of people. It's like, well, I'll turn on my spiritual dial over here and I'll turn it off over here. And it's just like, we're so compartmentalized right now. Just looking at my own life, I've noticed where I've compartmentalized things, just like I've compartmentalized motherhood, I've compartmentalized work and, spirituality. And now it's just like all those things have to come together, because it's like we can't separate ourselves and thrive. It's like we're holistic. And so our lives are becoming more holistic. And I think that's why a lot of people are making that change, where it's like their spiritual path becomes what they do for work. And then that becomes a real challenge, because it's like, well, now how do I separate this again? Because they're like, well, what's healthy? It's like, well, if you're doing what you love, it's like, that's healthy. If you're really feeling ignited and alive each day, it's like, then that's healthy. And you're really doing what you're supposed to be doing. But I think people still want to put it in the framework of like, well, what are my hours for today? What am I supposed to do here? And that also, you know, keeps them away from, again, this rapid evolution. It's like, well, I want to create something magical and I want like 1,000 people to come, and it's like, I
Yeah.
want to do this.
Right.
And so I think we have this huge potential when we just start to use our imagination and let those possibilities come into fruition and like not break it up. And
Yeah.
like, even with my work, it's like I could see where it's like my kids fit in, and I can see where spirituality fits in, and I can see where all these opportunities for financial compensation come in, and they don't have to be separate. And it's like, just like we were talking before the video, it's like me over here doesn't need to not be like, okay, yeah, there's people screaming in the background, there's kids running around. But sometimes we feel that way because it's just like, well, this is what the projection of my life is in this arena. And I think we've kind of just been taught that from the young age, where it's like, well, that's unprofessional. But it's like, well, that's my human, that's who I am.
Well,
And we are
human. I love that.
Yeah. And I think we're also challenged to just show up more authentically in our lives. And that means we have to break down those walls of separation within ourselves and how we present ourselves to the world.
I love that. Let's take a breath and enjoy that somatically or energetically. I'm hearing so much about the other word that I'm getting a lot is integration. So let's take a breath and just notice within yourself where you feel this doesn't kind of work with this, whether it's professional life, spiritual life, or motherhood, and even professional life, or whatever that is for you, relationship life and social life, whatever that is, and just see where you initially feel some boundaries or some walls. You can always pause the video if you need more time with this. And then along with, I'm going to be doing it, Stacey's doing it, just riding that energy of, let's just say 5 years. We have 5 years to get to this really integrated, as she's saying, breaking down those walls, those barriers, and allowing it all to flow. She's also used the word flow, and what was the other one with that? There was another word with flow.
Allowance.
Allowance, thank you. Allowance and flow. I was going to say abundance and that too. Allowance and abundance and flow. And just take a moment in your own reflection and just feel that you have 5 years to get there. So there's no hurry. It is rapid evolution, but we're also working with, we can use energy from 5 years ahead of us. And so just bring that energy in, take that energy in with a few breaths. And just notice which of these walls or barriers or boundaries or compartmentalized aspects of ourselves are first feeling that shakiness of maybe coming down. And as Stacey said before, taking action, that might be one of your very next steps. So just reflect on that. Where does the energy start to challenge one of our boundaries, one of our, we'll say, sticky points? Hmm. Again, if you need more time with this, I highly recommend you take it. You might even journal a little bit on this. Let's just take a big deep breath and thank ourselves from 5 years in the future, the gift that we're giving ourselves in this moment. Anything else that you got from your 5-year future self, Stacey?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just not worrying about the how, you know. It's like that's where I stop myself, because it's like, well, that's, you know, that's kind of excessive. It's like, how are you going to do that? And then my brain goes back to, well, this is how people make money. Da, 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 da. And it's like having to climb this ladder. And I think really moving away from that. And I mean, just yesterday, or yeah, just maybe the day before yesterday, I had an Akashic record reading with a lady. I gave her a reading, and like she was asking, one particular part was like, where is she moving forward from here? And I just so clearly saw, it's like, you're doing retreats, and you know, she's combining all these things that she's doing. And she was like, well, I really appreciate like all the guidance you gave me. It all resonated, but it was like, I don't see myself doing retreats like in any capacity. And I was like, okay, I'm just telling you what I saw. Like, you don't have to, it's just like a potential. And then the next day she was at a psychic fair, and a lady came up to her table and she was like, when's your next retreat? And she was like, I don't do retreats. You know? She said that was weird. But then at the end of the day, after everything was done, a friend of her asked if she would co-host a retreat with her. this July. And I was just like, see, like that is rapid evolution. I was like,
Rapid
um,
evolution, yes.
and like before, because she was like, I don't have the capacity, I don't know how to put it together. And I was just like, I just see you doing it. I don't know. It's like you take it or leave it. And yeah, it was just like it just opened up just like instantly because she was open to
Mhm.
receiving the guidance that came forth, even though she was like, no,
Mhm.
she was like,
Mhm.
it's a no, but I'm open.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see how quickly it progressed for her. And it kind of just shows me like, okay, well, it's like if I wanted to do that, I don't know how to run a retreat. I don't know where to go. Don't know how to, but it's like other people do, it's like
Mhm.
other windows of opportunity are open.
Right.
And I think the same thing with like our career, because it's like we think we have to build it, like brick by brick by brick. But really, it's like when we combined our spiritual path, our career, all of our experiences and things that we have, it's like we've been in training all our lives. It's like,
Right.
so just those moments have those culmination points where it's just like we can go from 0 to 1 million in like a day, and we
Mhm.
don't have to force it or figure out how. We just have to be open. And I think that's part of taking the next step. It's like, you know I can't figure out how I'm going to do this, but it's like, okay, maybe I go here, I meet this person, I have this opportunity or whatever, and letting that flow come in instead of being linear and thinking about it. And so I'm kind of tuning into my clients. I'm like, okay, it's like let me
Mhm.
take some of this medicine with me and
Yeah.
see how that plays out in my life. Yeah.
Beautiful insights. Thank you, Stacey. There's so much that resonates that's going on similarly with my life. One of the things that I did with the we'll say co-host of something that we do call the Appalachian Healing Collective, which is an online or it's an in-person gathering of healers, and we all have different modalities. And one of the things that's been challenged for our that we have people have brought forward as far as challenging, we could even say an accepted, we'll say a paradigm or a system where, if I'm going to go to a healing event and I'm going to heal, we'll say anywhere from 5 to 10 people, and then I get to receive once, like, where's my compensation? And really what's breaking down is just as you're explaining is I know, even as I'm a healer as well, and I charge for personal healing sessions and things like that, the whole hierarchy. So that's what we worked on yesterday. It was like this note on a healer hierarchy of okay, I've had this much training, or I've studied with this master, I see this many clients a week or something like that. To me, energetically, there's just as much potential for someone to grow, see, feel, connect, for somebody who's never had a healing teacher, but for someone who comes with that openness, right? Because I feel like often what happens in that, what you were talking about, the difference between um, living with that flow versus have I been trained in AYZ. There we go. We're already rapid evolution. We started A and we're already into Z. Um, but that's what's breaking down as well is this openness means that me, no matter how much healing experience I've had, are going to this event. And while that energy flows through me, I'm going to get just as much as what I give, if not more, with each giving. So I hear you repeating that back to me in that example of you doing a reading. You could say that, okay, you were the one giving the reading, but we get so much when we connect with that open allowing and that open flow. So I think that's and that was coming to me too in my 5 year, we'll just say check-in, was around my mind is trying to determine success as this many, this number, this much money, blah, 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 blah. And I feel like 5 years from now, she's like, ha, that was so unimportant. The energy of connection, just such as this, is the
Hmm.
is the thriving. I love that you use that word already. That what how do we feel day to day? And that's success. That is connection. That is healing. That is rapid evolution when you can get out of what feels like only here, conditional success, right? Means I'm doing it, I'm living it, I'm being it, and already be the living success of whether that's just you being you or you finally settling into what you feel like you're here to do. Maybe what you're here to do is just to be you, right? So yeah, thank you for echoing a lot of what was coming up for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you said there too about like the healings. And I find like sometimes even when we get like professional, and we do it a lot, we kind of also can lose the magic in it, and like that spontaneity and that flow of source just coming through us. And I think that's just huge for people who are fresh to it, because it's like you said, it's just like I have an open heart. It's like I'm here for it, and it just comes through. And I think also following things that way really allow for that adaptability, because you have no set structure. So you're ready to experiment. You're like, this is weird, but
Mhm.
and it really opens up doorways for you. So I actually do like that. And the way I learn is like, I don't learn from one perspective. Just like when I learned the Akashic Records, it's like I didn't just look at one teacher. It's like, well, I want to know how you do it, you do it, you do it, you do it. And I was just like kind of getting like this overarching theme, and like, what are the records overall, how do people access them overall, and kind of like how the readings go. And it's kind of been fun to play in. And like even now I'm still learning of different ways that people access the records and different frameworks, because it's always so interesting. And I think when we have our thing, we kind of just want to put it in a box, but it kind of limits us, because like I've recently, because I practice with other Akashic record readers sometimes, and like they're really bringing their healing modalities into the records, and it's like there's not really training for that. So it's like you're really being encouraged to use your intuition here, and they're like, I don't like that. It's like you have to tell me what to do. And I think just having that be open really helps us find our own footing and our own magic, because we're not here to replicate what everybody else does. It's like we're here to bring all that we are into what we're doing in a new way.
Yeah. Oh, did you guys get those goosies along with me? Thank you, Stacey. Beautiful words. Awesome. So, with all of that, with all of the wisdom from your 5 years in the future, 1 year in the future, the wisdom of you in the past, the wisdom of you now, living it all, what would you say is a message for those of us watching, listening? What would you offer? You offered a whole lot right there, but if you could just distill it into something that we all perhaps could hear.
Yeah, it's just kind of like you are enough, you have enough. And I think just getting out of that whole idea of this time all together, it's like, because I feel like it's just almost the recognition of lack keeps us in that lack. And I feel that a lot, because it's almost like we give our power away to something that doesn't even exist other than just a potential. And so once we start looking at the positive potentials and like really start honing our power in what we can control, which is always at this moment, it's like, how can we do what we need to do? What can we do at this time and in this moment is really what's going to help us move forward in the best and highest way. And I think it really helps us drop out of the mind too, because if we look back, it's like, well, why did I have to spend an extra hour, doing this thing? And then it's like, oh, well, it was to line up with this and that and that. And we don't see it in the moment. But if we follow those intuitive nudges consistently, it's like we see them over time, just like as I look back, I'm like, nothing happened. And it's like, so many things happen. I can tell you everything.
Yeah.
So it's just really recognizing that.
Thank you. I'm taking that with me. You guys going to take that with you? Intuitive nudge. Intuitive nudge. Ah, here, there, especially because one of the things that I tend to do, I do a lot, I hold a lot, I fill my life with a lot. Anybody else? So the even mothers watching, and parents, that's a lot, right? And so I so appreciate that. I know for me, one of the more negative spirals that I can get into is a sense of overwhelm. Or, like, this must be so important. I haven't done it yet. This is so important. I haven't done it yet. And that's what I'm learning a lot of too, is just wait, that's out there. Like you said, it's not even real. We're kind of giving a lot of energy to something that doesn't even exist. And where am I intuitively nudged to move, to take action, to be in the moment? So I'm taking that into my day. I hope you guys are taking that into your day as well. Just letting it be as simple as an intuitive nudge. And thank you, Stacey. Such wisdom. What else? What else do you have coming up? What else is in your Thrive box or Thrive sphere?
Yeah. Well, I have my Akashic record readings. You can book those through my site, Sacred Key
I'll put
Codes.
a link down in the
Yeah,
link
and
box.
then and then I also have a solstice activation where we're going to be working with the solstice light codes that are coming in and some beautiful crystalline energies to help you activate your crystalline consciousness and your light body and really, step forward on your path and as this more integrative being, because I feel like for me it's just like light is just holds this information. It's like when I think of a light body, I think of like our spiritual self, like all of our experience, all of our wisdom culminating into this body. And the more we do these processes, the more light we can hold and the more of our full selves we become. And I think it really helps us, embody spirituality, because it's like even with ascension, it's not like we're going out there. It's like we're bringing it down here. It's like we're bringing that light into the physical. We're bringing it into our bodies and we're changing and transforming our reality from the inside out, not by going out and leaving, because that's not really changing anything. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for that. It'll be June 23rd, Sunday, June 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay.
And yeah, I also offer Akashic record hypnosis. So it's like if you want to go into your own records and have a personal journey where you can access your knowledge. I really love having that because I do believe, we all have access, we all have the answers, and we just kind of sometimes need the environment where we can come into that space and have that guidance and have that validation along the way. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Oh.
And then I will also be uploading a free meditation for everybody onto my site who signs up for my newsletter. And it will be a guided activation to help you activate one of your soul gifts. And yeah, it's really powerful and really cool. So I've gotten really great feedback on it and I'm excited to share it.
Thank you, Mermaid. I can attest to just the things that Stacey channels and the transmissions, and I know it's really impacted my life to be able to go through and walk through those things. So I highly check out her meditation as it's up, and again, we'll link to it at the bottom. I've also got to experience Stacey's equinox activation, so that was whoa. So I highly do recommend you check out the solstice one because it was I'm just staring off into space a little bit because talk about rapid evolution, there's so much that has impacted me. Maybe if I could just put since let's say the beginning of the year, and we're headed towards the end of March now. If I had something where I could say one of 5 great impactful things, and I've had a lot, I would say one of them is definitely Stacey's equinox activation, and just her gifts are stellar. Highly recommend you hang out with her, hang out with us if we resonate, as we resonate. So thank you, Stacey. Anything else that you have, or do you feel complete?
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on here, and I really appreciate all that you're doing, and go check Randi out.
Yeah. I mean, we're together, really. Come on.
Yeah. She has an awesome community, and I love being a part of her circle and growing with her. And it really, if you need a community, she's where it's at. So
Yeah,
definitely
thank
check her
you.
out.
And likewise, as Stacey came on board a little over a year ago, she was one of those who went, whoa! I mean, she has so much suggestions and ideas. And so often the prompts that we do in our meditation classes, which are free in the mornings, you can join us Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. Often so many of these prompts, the things we do in our channeling workshops, Stacey's there channeling with us. We do a monthly thing where we all channel. And Stacey's there with her guidance as well. So there's a lot you can check out to join us on our adventure of rapid evolution. And we're curious about your story. So leave comments, reach out to us. We would both love to hear from you. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you so much.
Happy integration and happy intuitive nudging.